When I was 16, my friend Lexi and I were trying to get super fit one summer. So we made a pact that we were going to swim around this one rock every day that summer. The swim wasn't that long, it only took like 15 minutes. But the rule was that you had to swim around the backside of the rock. You couldn't just go out and back. You had to go behind it. And the backside of the rock was always a little scary because once you got behind the rock, no one on the beach could see you anymore. So if anything happened to you, you'd be on your own. But we were ridiculously intense about it. Like we went turbo beast mode. We said that no matter the weather, no matter the size of the waves, the strength of the rip current, we would swim around the rock for the entire month of July every day. And we were super serious about this commitment. Like one day, Lexi ate a really bad pepperoni calzone and had the worst food poisoning. And she was literally shitting her pants. And I was like, Lexi, you don't have to swim with me today. And she still swam with me that day. Then one day, in the middle of July 16th actually to be exact, because I remember we were swimming around the rock and something bad happened. So Lexi and I are swimming and we're like halfway through the swim on the backside of the rock. And while we're swimming, something hits me on the back. It literally felt like someone punched me underwater. And I scream and Lexi's like, what happened? But I was freaked out and I didn't explain it to her. So I just told her to swim to the rock, get out of the ocean and get on top of it. Once we were safe on the rock, I told Lexi what had happened and she was super freaked out. And I actually had a red mark on my back. So she knew I wasn't making any of it up. We stayed on the rock staring at the water, trying to spot anything moving for like 30 minutes. But after a while we were like, okay, well, we have to swim back at some point. So we decided to swim in. We literally swam as fast as we could back to the shore. When we got to the shore, there was an old woman on the beach looking at us kind of weirdly. She's like, where's your other friend? And we were confused. We were like, what? She's like, you had a third girl swimming with you, didn't you? And we were like, no, it's just us. And she's like, well, I definitely saw a third girl out there with you guys. But then a few days later, the local newspaper came out with a story titled Something in the Water. People at another beach a few miles away claimed that they were getting hit by something in the water. So people were claiming at this other beach in town that something was hitting them in the water. And they couldn't see what it was, but a few people had described the same sensation. The feeling of a really hard, blunt kind of punch in the water. So Lexi and I start to suspect that whatever's hitting people at that beach also hit me a few days earlier. And even though it was only July 19th, Lexi and I decided that it wasn't safe to swim behind the rock anymore. But I still would obviously go to the beach, and my favorite time to go was early in the mornings. And usually it would just be me at the beach at that time of day, but one morning I came down and the same old lady was standing there on the shore of the beach. She was just standing there with her feet in the water, but when I walked by, she turned around and she goes, "It must be a beautiful life out there. I bet they're happy." And then she bent down and picked something up from the sand and handed it to me. It was a type of shell that I had seen all the time. And she goes, "Do you know what these are? These are mermaid nails. We must have one living nearby this summer." And then she winks. A few nights later, I was at the beach again at a beach fire. And that's when I made a huge mistake. So a few nights later, we were having a beach fire and it was really fun. Everyone was drinking, it was getting pretty rowdy. And then one of my friends proposes that we play truth or dare. So we're going around and of course I'm feeling tipsy and therefore bold. So when it's my turn, I choose dare. And this guy, Eddie, dared me to go climb up one of the big rocks, jump off into the ocean and swim all the way in. But since hearing about this creature in the ocean, I hadn't gone in past my waist. But as I said, I was feeling drunk and brave, so I said fine. So I stripped down ass naked and I start walking towards the rock and everyone's drunkenly cheering, but as I get further away, their cheers become quieter and soon it's just me and the wind and the sound of the ocean. And I'm starting to get cold because even in July, the nights can get kind of chilly and I'm standing on top of the rock about to jump in, but I close my eyes and I just jump in and the water actually feels warmer than the air and it feels good and I'm happy I'm in it. But then I hear a small splash behind me. All of a sudden, I feel something take my hand, like grab it really aggressively. It feels like another hand holding mine trying to pull me down and I freak out and I scream and I pull my hand away and I start swimming faster than I ever have in my whole life. And then I feel the same thing grab my ankle and I kick and it's still holding on to it, but finally I kick really hard and I get it to let go and I'm swimming even faster. Once I got to the point where I could touch, I just start sprinting through the water onto the shore. So I sprint back to the fire and I'm trying to tell my drunk friends what had happened, but they think I'm trying to trick them and they're all like, haha, nice, I can't believe you actually got in the water. So in the summer, I like to wear a lot of anklets because I think they look really cute on like tan bare feet. So I had a lot of anklets that summer, like rope braided anklets. So the next morning I'm in bed and I feel something sharp against my ankle. So I pull my foot out from under the covers and I look, and stuck in one of my anklets is a shell. And I look a little closer and it's the same shell that the old lady showed me on the beach. A mermaid's nail.
Story time. So this was 2 years ago and I was at school and it was a normal day until the principal went on the speaker and said, "We're in lockdown, go in your closets." So We went ahead and went in the closets. We were all confused. Some people were scared. Everyone was like kind of asking the teacher what was going on and stuff. Now during this time, I wasn't asking anything or saying anything because I knew during a lockdown you don't want to say anything. So if there is someone in the school, they won't find where you are. But I was still listening to them because I was curious like everyone else. So while everyone was asking the questions, one girl stood up and said, "If you're not going to say what's going on, I'm going to get out of the closet." The teacher yelled at her and told her no. And the teacher yelled loud, so whoever was in the school obviously heard. So the door opened and everyone became silent. And so basically, So this was welcome to part 2. Okay, so the guy that came into our school was a prisoner that escaped prison. So he was like, "Where are you?" And he stood in there for at least 10 minutes. Then we thought he left, but he was completely silent, and the teacher gave us a look saying, "Do not talk and do not move." So we all listened to the way he looked, and my best friend, the girl that stood up saying she would leave, got up and left. She thought that the guy was gone and she was going to get a counselor. So as soon as she got out of the room, we heard gunshots. As soon as the gunshots said that, I knew immediately what happened. I started crying, and I thought that she was dead. The guy didn't even try to come in the room that we were in, even though he knew where we were. He immediately left, knowing that he should have not shot the girl. Wait for part 3. Welcome to part 3. So as soon as the guy left, we got out of the closet and started panicking. We didn't know what to do since she was shot in the head, and we knew that she wouldn't make it. So we were all freaking out, and so was I, and I was crying, and I just couldn't breathe right, and I didn't know what to do. The speaker went off saying that the police and the ambulance were coming since the principal heard a gunshot too. So when the police came, they found the guy who was hiding in a locker, and he got contained and took into the police office. The ambulance were here and went in the room and took her. They said with their face, saying she would not make it. That was the worst day of my life. So the ambulance took her, and about 2 days later, we weren't allowed to go to the school since the guy was still on the loose. He escaped. So we all had to stay at our homes, and I visited my friend, and I didn't know she died.
Guys, today I'm going to tell you how I scammed my rich friend in Adopt Me and how it went completely wrong. So from what I thought, she would scam people every single day for the pets that she had. And I only thought that because I saw her do it a couple times. And when I tell you this girl was rich, I mean she was rich. So one day, I was at her house, and we were just playing Adopt Me, and when she went to go up to the bathroom, I took her iPad, and I traded myself, and I traded all her pets to my account. And by the way, I had traded all the pets to an alt account so that she wouldn't see them in my inventory. So soon enough, she came back from the bathroom, and she had a meltdown. And she knew that it wasn't me because she knows that I wouldn't do something like that, and she saw my inventory. So then she goes running to her dad sobbing, telling him about it. And remind you, they are a really wealthy family. And then I was confused because he started screaming at her over these virtual pets. And then he said that
Part 2. So yeah, here he is screaming at her. And then he says this. We're just gonna call her Abby, but he says, "Abby, I've spent probably over $1,000 on this game in the past year for you." And I was all confused. I was like, oh, wait a minute. This girl had her dad buy her pets? And she just over there sobbing. And so he takes her iPad and throws it across the room. It didn't break, but this man was furious. And I'm just standing in the corner of the room with my jaw literally on the ground. Because he's over here flipping out on her, and I had them in my inventory the whole time. And so of course I had to give them back to her, but oh my god, I was so scared, and they were both mad at me. So then my parents got involved because apparently it was a too far gone prank. So that's when things started to get just way too dramatic. So we stopped talking for a while, but luckily we talk again.